NBA draft. Find out who gets selected beginning tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations and ESPN app. Presented by ZipRecruiter. Malik Andrews brought it up last night during the broadcast. Cece told me, I didn't see this, that Scott Van Pelt brought up the same thing during SportsCenter last night. And it happened a million times. I feel because you were on board with me. Smalls, you gave me a look. Pat Costello was like, what? This is the hill to die on? People tweeting at me at Evco Radio like, oh, nobody's changed hats. Yeah, because no picks were traded in the top 9. That's why nobody traded. But then they all were wearing the wrong hats.
I hate it.
Thank you.
I hate it. You're not wrong. That's ridiculous.
Why is that so hard to do? Like, hey, Chris, you're not on this team, you're on that team. Okay, so give me the hat.
Because they can't make it official until what? July 6th, I think is the date? It's weird.
So if it falls through, it falls through. We'll take the risk.
I'm with you.
It's so dumb. And you know what? I feel badly for the people who are on the broadcast because a lot of times, to just go behind the scenes a little bit, you have 8,000 people in your ear. You're watching what you're watching. You're seeing a person put on a hat. You may not have every piece of Sham's info in front of you like we do at home, refreshing Twitter or Instagram, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you see a guy wearing a hat, and you're like, oh, he's on that team. But he's not on that team. Anyway,
it makes Monica McNutt's job that much
impossible.
harder.
Yeah, good point.
Great point. What
point.
team is she supposed to be asking about? No, seriously. Am I supposed to be asking the team I think you're going to be on or the team you're wearing the hat of? So then I can't ask about any team, so I can't do fit questions. Like
I mean,
fit on the
are
team,
you asking Kaman Malwatch about playing with KD, or what is it going to be like playing with Devin Booker?
Or playing with
Big difference.
Or playing behind Mark Williams, who they traded for, but it's not official. Like, I don't know what to...
Right.
That's impossible. Anyway, we're on Sportsmanlike here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. So last night, we saw number 1 overall, Dallas Mavericks, take Cooper Flagg. We're fully aware that that was going to happen for a long period of time. Stephen A. Smith, of course, was on the draft coverage on ABC last night and had this to say about the Mavs taking Cooper Flagg.
I think he could potentially make them the number 1 threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder. When you consider the way that Dallas has feared against Oklahoma City in recent memory, with or without Luka Doncic, with a Kyrie Irving on the floor, considering that you've got an Anthony Davis, assuming he's healthy, with a Lively, with a Gafford, with a Klay Thompson, etc. P.J. Washington, let's not forget about him. This is a very formidable team, if healthy. That's the big question, health.
So they draft Cooper Flagg. Oklahoma City, by the way, gets better last night. They took a center from Georgetown, who we know that they're going to not have Isaiah Hartenstein probably in 2 years, and they're already replacing him. Like, they're so smart in what they do.
They're playing chess.
Yeah. So do we agree with this? Are the Mavs the biggest threat to the Thunder in the Western Conference right now?
Ooh, that's a big statement. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far, but I do think the Mavs, from a talent standpoint, are uniquely positioned to pose some problems for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, the Thunder have good size, but the Thunder aren't a great rebounding team. They are an outstanding defensive team. I think the Dallas Mavs are going to be one of the best defensive teams in all of basketball next season. Mm-hmm. But I do think the Dallas Mavs have that superpower of being able to rebound the basketball with their frontline size. Think about it. Cooper Flagg, 6'9". You got Anthony Davis, a 7-footer. You got Daniel Gafford, a 7-footer. You got Derek Lively, a 7-footer. You've got really good size along that front line for the Dallas Mavs, and I think that can present some problems for teams that aren't dominant when it comes to being able to rebound the basketball. So I do think that the Dallas Mavericks can challenge some teams in the Western Conference when they're whole, but the biggest question is when Kyrie Irving is going to be healthy and available, because he's the one that has to make it all go. In the way of shot creation, they don't have a ton of guys outside of Kyrie that can do that for them. We'll see what they do with that mid-level exception that they were able to open up with the Kyrie extension, and who they go after as a backup point guard or a stopgap point guard until Kyrie does come back. But the biggest question is whether or not the Dallas Mavericks are going to disqualify themselves before Kyrie Irving comes back next season. But if they're in the postseason and Kyrie Irving is healthy, the Dallas Mavericks can give anybody a scare in the Western Conference, including the Oklahoma City Thunder.
They've got all the pieces, right? They've
Yes.
got all the pieces there to be a very dangerous team. We've outlined the names. Health is the clear issue, not just with Kyrie. You always worry about AD, right? You always worry about health when it comes to AD. Injuries are the main factor why they went 39-43 last year. If this team can stay healthy, they could be a real problem.
If I told you one team from Texas got to the conference finals against the Thunder next year, which team would it be?
The Spurs.
What?
I want it to be the Spurs. They may be a year away from that, but I want it to be them because I don't know if they're done making moves.
So they're not done.
You would put the Spurs ahead of the Mavs and the Rockets.
I mean, maybe the Rockets with KD, but I just feel like
your initial reaction was the Spurs.
I know, because I just feel like they're not done making moves and someone else could land there. And with that young core and that organization,
wow. But it's just such a wild,
I need to see what they do.
It's just such a wild card with Mitch Johnson, first year as the head coach. I don't know what that is. Like, I get it. He had some experience, Pop being out all last year. But, that's the one thing. It feels like the organization is turning over, and it's going to be his voice on the sideline, him putting his imprint on what this team, what this roster is going to be. And then we got to see what version of Wemby comes back this year, right? Last year with the blood clots, that stuff is scary. So making sure that all of those concerns are behind him. But if everybody is healthy, I'm not going to bet against Victor Wembanyama. Right. He's that good.
So you're going Spurs too?
I think it's going to be interesting, man. I'm not going to sit here and say it with my chest, but I think the Spurs will be in the mix. That's the thing that's fascinating about the Western Conference. There are the traditional powers, the traditional personalities that we expect, right? You got the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron and Luka. You got the Denver Nuggets with Jokic. You got the Oklahoma City Thunder. You got KD now with the Rockets. But then there are those wild card teams, man. Like the Dallas Mavericks can be there. The San Antonio Spurs can be there. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens with another year with Jimmy Butler with the Golden State Warriors. You can't disqualify them. So I think this West is going to be absolutely fascinating. One thing about it, it's an arms race, and we don't know what these rosters are going to look like come playoffs next year because I don't think these teams are done making moves. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the Western Conference up until the deadline next February.
There's more to this, and whether or not Cooper Flagg lives up to the hype, how he needs to live up to the hype is also going to be determined on who's helping him do that. And I'm not sure we 100% know who's going to coach him, but we may have had some indication last night. We will get to that coming up. But first, I want to tell you about La Quinta. When you're on a business trip, you know what goes completely off the rails? Your workout routine, especially when you book a hotel that doesn't have a gym. Then you have to squeeze in between the desk and your bed, eke out 2 push-ups, and call it a day. If you just stay at La Quinta by